Welcome to the Pursuit Chronicles, where hidden truths, bold journeys, and untold stories come to life. Get ready to chase the extraordinary. The terminal at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport buzzed with the pre-dawn energy of travelers at 4:45 a.m., a cacophony of rolling suitcases, muffled announcements, and the sharp hiss of espresso machines. Maya Ellison stood at the edge of the priority check-in line for Flight 892 to Chicago, her presence a quiet counterpoint to the chaos. At 34, Maya had mastered the art of moving through spaces where she wasn't expected to belong. Her navy blazer was tailored but understated, paired with dark jeans and black ankle boots polished to a subtle shine. A leather satchel hung from her shoulder, containing only what she needed: a tablet, a sealed manila envelope, a slim ID case, and a single pen. Her hair was pulled into a tight braid, her brown skin catching the occasional glance from passers-by, not curiosity, but scrutiny. To them, she didn't look like she belonged in the executive lane. Not with that satchel, not with that silence, not with that calm. Maya stepped forward as the line inched along, her first-class boarding pass open on her phone, the screen glowing. With Seat 1B, Flight 892, Havenport Air, the check-in agent, a young man named Derek with a name tag slightly askew, looked up as she approached. His smile was practiced, but his eyes narrowed briefly, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. "This lane's for priority and first-class travelers," he said, his tone polite but laced with an assumption that Maya had wandered into the wrong. "Q." She met his gaze, unflinching, her voice steady. "I know." She held up her phone, the digital pass clearly visible. Derek's smile faltered as he scanned the code, his fingers hesitating over the keyboard. Behind Maya, a man in a pinstripe suit sighed audibly, tapping his foot. Derek glanced at him, then back at Maya, his movements quickening. "All right, you're cleared. Head to security." His voice was curt, and as Maya walked away, she caught his whispered comment to a colleague. "Didn't expect her in first. Probably a glitch." The security checkpoint was no smoother. Despite her TSA pre-check status, prominently displayed on her boarding pass, Maya was flagged for a random screening. The agent, a woman with a tight bun and a badge reading Marissa, barely glanced at the pass before motioning her to a side table. "Bag check," she said, unzipping Maya's satchel with a briskness that felt performative. The sealed envelope inside drew a raised eyebrow. "What's this?" Marissa asked, turning it over as if expecting contraband. "Private documents," Maya replied, her tone calm but firm. "Legal?" Marissa pressed, her eyes narrowing. "Yes." The agent rummaged through the satchel's sparse contents, a tablet, a pen, a pack of gum, before shrugging and waving her through. Maya noticed the line behind her moving faster, men in suits and women with designer totes gliding past without a second glance. She zipped her bag, adjusted the strap, and continued, her expression a mask of composure. At gate B7, Maya chose a seat in the corner of the waiting area, away from the clusters of travelers engrossed in their phones or complaining about delays. The gate agent, a woman named Carla with a bright smile and a Havenport Air scarf, was chatting with a couple carrying matching leather briefcases, her laughter light as she confirmed their connecting flight. A man with a Rolex and a golf bag approached, and Carla waved him through with a nod, his ID barely checked. Maya watched, her hands resting on the envelope in her lap. She didn't check her phone or fidget. She observed, cataloging the subtle hierarchy of the gate, the way politeness was rationed like a limited resource doled out to those who fit the mold. The boarding announcement crackled over the speaker. "Now boarding Group 1 for Flight 892 to Chicago, First Class and Executive Platinum. Please approach the gate." Maya stood, joining the small queue. The man ahead of her, the one with the golf bag, glanced back, his eyes lingering on her satchel, her blazer, her face. He leaned toward Carla, his voice low but not low enough. "She's first class?" Carla scanned Maya's pass, her lips tightening into a thin line. "Seat 1B, Maya said evenly, holding her phone steady. Carla's eyes flicked to the screen, then back to Maya. "Go ahead," she said, her smile forced, her fingers tapping rapidly on the counter as if to dismiss the interaction. The jet bridge was cold, the hum of the aircraft growing louder as Maya boarded. She settled into 1B, a window seat in the plush first-class cabin, stowing her satchel under the seat and placing the envelope in the seat pocket. The man in 1A, a silver-haired executive with a laptop already open, gave her a brief nod before returning to his screen, his fingers flying over the keys. The cabin filled slowly, flight attendants moving with choreographed efficiency. One, a woman named Lauren with a polished smile and a name tag pinned to her navy vest, paused at Maya's row. "Good morning," she said, her tone flat, her eyes skimming past Maya to the man in 1A. "Anything you need, sir?" He shook his head, and Lauren moved on without addressing Maya, her tray of water bottles bypassing 1B entirely. As the plane taxied, the slights began to accumulate, small but deliberate. A water bottle was offered to row 2, then row 3, the attendants. Smile warm as she handed them out. Maya's row was skipped. Lauren passed her twice, distributing warm towels to other passengers, her tray never dipping toward 1B. Maya's fingers brushed the envelope in the seat pocket, her gaze fixed on the window, but she missed nothing. The man in 1A noticed, his brow furrowing. "They forgot you," he said, his tone not unkind but tinged with confusion. Maya smiled faintly, her voice low. "They didn't forget." After takeoff, the beverage cart rolled through the aisle, its metal frame clinking softly. Lauren stopped. At 1A, offering coffee, juice, or wine with a practiced lilt. "Black coffee, please," the man said, and Lauren poured it with a flourish. She stepped past Maya, serving row 2 before Maya cleared her throat. "May I have water?" she asked, her voice steady, her eyes locking onto Lauren's. The attendant blinked, as if startled. "Oh, sorry, I thought water, right?" She handed Maya a plastic cup, no bottle, no smile, the liquid sloshing slightly as she thrust it forward. The man in 1A frowned, his voice low. "Drinks are included in first, aren't they?" Lauren nodded quickly. "Of course, sir." She moved, on avoiding Maya's gaze, her steps brisk. The meal service was a study in exclusion. Lauren presented a laminated menu to 1A, describing the salmon and pasta options with enthusiasm, her voice rising as she listed the wine pairings. She skipped Maya, rolling the cart forward to row 2. Maya waited, counting 5 rows served before speaking. "Was I missed for meals?" she asked, her tone polite but edged with steel. Lauren turned, her smile brittle, her eyes darting to her tablet. "I wasn't sure you were eligible. Sometimes there's confusion with upgrades." Maya's eyes narrowed, her voice cutting through the cabin's hum. "I'm in 1B. There's no confusion." Lauren tapped her tablet, her fingers moving rapidly. "Right, my mistake. Salmon or pasta?" Maya chose the salmon, which arrived cold, the vegetables soggy, the plate clearly an afterthought, the sauce congealed at the edges. She didn't touch it, covering it with the lid and sliding it forward an inch, her silence louder than any complaint. Halfway through the flight, the lead attendant, a man named Greg with a clipped mustache and a clipboard, approached her row. "Ms. Ellison, we've had a seating issue reported from the ground crew. Could I rescan your boarding pass?" Maya held up her phone, her expression unreadable, her eyes steady. Greg scanned it, his brow furrowing as he studied his tablet. "Odd. There's a flag on your ticket. Probably a glitch." He walked away, whispering into his headset, his voice too low to catch. Moments later, Lauren returned, crouching beside Maya's seat, her smile overly bright. "We've sorted your record, ma'am," she said, her tone dripping with false warmth. "Let us know if you need anything." Maya didn't respond, her fingers resting on the envelope, her gaze fixed on the clouds outside. The slights continued, each one a calculated erasure. A warm cloth was offered to 1A. The attendant's smile genuine as she handed it over. Maya was skipped, the tray passing her like a ghost. A passenger from row 4, a man in a polo shirt and expensive sunglasses, leaned over her seat to ask Lauren about landing times, his tone casual but pointed. "She's really in first?" he said, loud enough for Maya to hear, his eyes flicking to her satchel, her braid, her skin. Lauren chuckled, her voice low. "She's on the list. Must be a points thing." The man smirked, slapping the back of Maya's seat as he returned to his row. Maya's jaw tightened, but she remained still, her silence a shield, her hands steady on the envelope. An hour from landing, Greg returned, his tone now formal, his clipboard tucked under his arm. "Ms. Ellison, we've had a request to relocate. You to 12C for weight distribution." Maya turned slowly, her eyes locking onto his. "Weight distribution? In first class?" Greg nodded, his smile tight. "Standard protocol." Maya leaned back, her voice calm but unyielding. "Then explain the physics. I'm listening." Greg's smile faltered, his fingers tightening on the clipboard. "It's a safety issue, ma'am." Maya's eyes didn't waver. "I'm not moving." He hesitated, then walked away, muttering into his headset, his steps quickening. No further attempt was made to relocate her, but the tension in the cabin thickened, the crew's glances sharper, their whispers more frequent. As the plane descended, Maya's silence grew heavier, a force that seemed to press against the cabin's polished veneer. She watched the crew's subtle exchanges, Lauren's quick glance toward the galley, Greg's murmured comment into his headset, the way another attendant avoided her row entirely. The seatbelt sign chimed, and Lauren made a final pass, pausing at Maya's seat. "Ma'am, please ensure all personal items are stowed overhead for landing." Maya's satchel was already under the seat, her hands empty except for the envelope. "I've flown before," she said, her voice calm but cutting, each word a quiet rebuke. Lauren's lips parted, but she said nothing, moving on with a stiffness that betrayed her discomfort. When the plane reached Gate 14 in Chicago's O'Hare Airport, Maya waited as passengers shuffled out, their briefcases and egos clogging the aisle. She stood last, retrieving her satchel and envelope with deliberate care, her movements unhurried. At the aircraft door, the captain offered a generic "safe travels" to others, his smile warm as he shook hands with the man in 1A. For by Maya he offered only a nod, his eyes skimming past her. She stepped onto the jet bridge, the air sharp with the scent of jet fuel and industrial cleaner, her boots echoing softly in the enclosed corridor. Halfway down the jet bridge, a uniformed agent blocked her path, his tablet glowing in the dim light. "Ms. Ellison," he asked, his tone professional but guarded, "we need to verify your destination before releasing your bag. Routine check." Maya's lips twitched, a flicker of disbelief crossing her face. "Verify my destination?" she repeated, her voice low, each syllable precise. The agent nodded, his eyes flicking to his tablet. "Your reservation was flagged. Code 19B, internal override." Maya stepped closer, her gaze piercing. "Who filed that code?" The agent glanced at his screen, his fingers hesitating. "It's not listed. Could be automated." Maya's voice sharpened, a blade beneath her calm. "It wasn't. Take me to your supervisor." The agent led her through a side door into a narrow corridor lined with storage closets and faded employee notices. The air smelled of disinfectant, the fluorescent lights flickering faintly. At the end of the hall, a small office marked Operations 3C stood open. Inside, a woman in a navy suit sat behind a cluttered desk, her name tag reading, Sandra Ground, Operations Manager. She didn't stand as Maya entered, her eyes flicking up from her monitor with a practiced neutrality. "Ms. Ellison," she said, her voice crisp, "there's an issue with your ticket. It appears your seat was an erroneous upgrade from a legacy voucher." Maya placed her envelope on the desk, unopened, her movements deliberate. "Erroneous? I booked 1B directly." Sandra tapped her keyboard, her lips pursing. "Our system shows a mismatch. Legacy vouchers can be fraudulent. We're protecting our operations." Maya's eyes narrowed, her voice steady but cold. "You're accusing me of fraud?" Sandra backtracked, her tone softening slightly. "We're not accusing, just verifying." Maya opened her satchel, withdrawing a slim card, platinum embossed with a serial number and the faint logo of Meridian Trust Holdings. She placed it beside the envelope, her fingers lingering on its edge. "This is Level 5 clearance from Meridian Trust Holdings." Sandra's eyes widened, her posture stiffening. "Meridian?" "That's—" Maya cut in, her voice unwavering. "The parent entity controlling 38% of your airline's merger shares. This envelope contains a compliance directive I'm authorized to execute. I'm not a passenger, I'm a verifier." The room stilled, the hum of the terminal outside fading into a distant murmur. Sandra stared at the card, then the envelope, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as if unsure whether to type or retreat. "I wasn't informed," she began, her voice faltering. "Because you weren't supposed to be," Maya said, her tone calm but unyielding. "This was a test. Your airline's treatment of passengers, especially those who don't fit your profile, is under review. I was sent by Meridian's board to observe, undocumented, incognito. Every interaction, every skip towel, cold meal, false flag, and seat challenge was logged. Your crew's behavior reflects a systemic pattern of bias. I'm here to decide if Meridian proceeds with the $3.2 billion merger or pulls its stake entirely." Sandra's face paled, her hands dropping to her lap. "A test?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Maya nodded, her eyes steady. "Your system flagged me as a problem because I didn't look like first class. You challenged my seat, ignored my service, and tampered with my bag. That's not a glitch. That's a culture." She opened the envelope, revealing a document, with Meridian seal, the paper heavy with signatures and legal weight. "This directive requires my signature to release merger funds. Without it, your airline loses its capital by tomorrow's close of business." The agent by the door shifted uncomfortably, his tablet now lowered, his eyes darting between Maya and Sandra. Sandra stammered, her voice trembling. "We can address this. Let me call my director." Maya raised a hand, her gesture sharp but controlled. "You'll report, not fix. My bag was opened without consent. Where is it?" "The—" agent muttered, his voice low. "Holding base C4. I'll take you." Maya gathered her items, the envelope and card tucked under her arm. "No escort. Just get me my bag." In the baggage area, Maya found her satchel on a steel table, a yellow tag reading "Unverified item" dangling from the zipper. The zipper was half open, the envelope inside creased, the red string clasp slightly loosened. She checked the contents, nothing missing, but the violation was unmistakable, the pages touched by careless hands. "Who opened this?" she asked the agent, her voice low, her eyes burning with restrained fury. He shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Not logged. Probably an error." Maya's eyes hardened, her voice cutting through the air. "Get your manager." "Now?" Minutes later, a man in a gray suit approached, his stride hurried, his name tag reading Victor Hayes, Terminal Operations. "Ms. Ellison," he said, his tone conciliatory but guarded, "we don't open bags without cause. It was likely a routine check." Maya held up the creased envelope, her fingers steady. "This is a legal directive, tampered with. That's not routine. That's a breach." Victor's jaw tightened, his eyes flicking to the agent, then back to Maya. "We flagged you as a behavioral concern. Non-compliance, confrontational tone, reported by the cabin crew." Maya stepped closer, her voice a quiet storm. "You flagged me for existing while black in first class. Your crew ignored me, challenged my seat, served me cold food, and filed false reports. That's not protocol. That's prejudice." Victor hesitated, his hands clasping in front of him. "We can resolve this privately." Maya cut him off, her voice sharp. "You mean contain it? I'm not here to be contained." She pulled out her tablet, opening a secure app with a fingerprint. "Scan." A message blinked on the screen. Meridian audit activated. Stakeholder ID verified. Incident log synced. She turned the screen toward Victor, her eyes unyielding. "This is a live audit. Every interaction from check-in to now is being reviewed. Gate logs, crew comms, onboard cameras. Your system's biases are exposed, and Meridian is watching." Victor's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it, his face draining of color, as he read the message. "I need to make a call," he said, stepping away, his voice low but urgent as he spoke into the device. Maya sat, her satchel on her lap, the envelope beside her, its creases a silent accusation. The terminal hummed outside, travelers oblivious to the storm brewing in its systems, the ripples spreading through Havenport Air's back end like cracks in a dam. 15 minutes later, Victor returned, accompanied by a woman in a tailored blazer, her hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. "Ms. Ellison," she said, her voice measured but tense. "I'm Elaine Carter, Regional Director of Operations. We've received a directive from Meridian's legal team. You're to be released immediately. All flags on your record are voided, effective retroactively." Maya stood, her satchel over her shoulder, the envelope tucked under her arm. "Voiding records doesn't erase actions," she said, her voice cold. "Your crew's behavior is documented. Meridian will decide what happens next." Elaine swallowed, her hands clasped tightly. "We deeply regret any misunderstanding." Maya raised a hand, her gesture silencing the room. "Regret doesn't fix systems. Accountability does. Your airline profiled me, excluded me, and violated my privacy." "That's not a misunderstanding. That's a failure." She turned to the agent. "My bag. Now." He nodded, scurrying to the holding bay, returning with the satchel, its yellow tag removed. Maya checked it again, her fingers tracing the creased envelope, her eyes never leaving Elaine's. She walked out of the office, her steps measured, the envelope secure in her satchel. In the terminal, staff moved with sudden urgency, phones buzzing, screens flashing with internal alerts. Maya's name was being scrubbed from watch lists, her ticket restored to priority status, her clearance updated across Havenport systems. Whispers followed her, gate agents glancing up, security officers stepping aside. But she didn't look back, her presence a quiet force that shifted the terminal's rhythm. At the executive lounge, a concierge greeted her with nervous deference, her hands trembling as she typed, "Ms. Ellison, would you like a private suite or boardroom access?" Maya shook her head, her voice calm. "Connect me to Meridian's compliance officer. Full access." The concierge complied, her fingers fumbling over the keyboard. Maya entered a glass-walled boardroom where a video call was already active. A man in a suit appeared on the screen, his expression grave. "Ms. Ellison, I'm Daniel West, Meridian Trust. We've received your preliminary report. The audit is active. What's your recommendation?" Maya opened the envelope, laying out the directive on the polished table. "Havenport's operations reflect systemic bias, profiling, exclusion, document tampering, and false reporting. I recommend halting the merger until a full ethics review is complete. No signature until then." West nodded, his voice steady. "Understood. We'll notify their board. Your authority is absolute." The call ended, the screen going dark, leaving Maya alone in the boardroom, the city skyline visible through the windows, its lights flickering against the dawn. Outside, the terminal churned, but its rhythm had fractured. Gate agents typed frantically, crew schedules were rerouted, and internal memos circulated with words like urgent and compliance breach. Lauren, the flight attendant, was pulled from her next shift, her communication logs flagged for review. Carla, the gate agent, faced a disciplinary hearing, her override of Maya's boarding pass logged as a protocol violation. Derek, the check-in agent, was reassigned to a regional desk, his access to priority lanes suspended. The airline's stock ticker flickered on a terminal screen, a subtle dip signaling investor unease, the first tremor of a larger quake. Maya walked to a private exit where a black sedan waited, its driver holding a sign with her name. Her phone buzzed with a message from Meridian's board, "Merger on hold pending your final report." Compliance audit expanded to all Havenport hubs. She didn't respond yet, her focus elsewhere. She stepped into the car, the envelope secure in her satchel, its creases a testament to the day's violations. The driver, unaware of the storm she'd unleashed, asked, "Where to, ma'am?" Maya's voice was calm, her eyes fixed on the terminal's glass facade. "Downtown. I have a meeting." As the car pulled away, Maya glanced at the terminal one last time, its lights glowing against the dawn. She hadn't raised her voice, hadn't demanded attention. She'd simply held her ground, letting the system's own weight collapse under. Its flaws, Havenport Air would survive, but it would never fly the same. Not after her. 3 weeks later, in a Chicago boardroom overlooking Lake Michigan, Meridian's executives gathered to review Maya's final report. The merger was restructured, with new compliance mandates and a $500 million penalty for Havenport's operational failures. Several staff members were quietly reassigned to low-tier routes: Lauren to regional shuttles, Carla to a cargo desk, Derek to a training program with no passenger contact. Their names vanished from premium manifests, their careers redirected to the margins of the airline's operations. Maya, now back in her Seattle office, sat at a glass desk, the envelope filed away in a secure drawer. Her phone buzzed with a single email from Meridian's board. "Your directive saved us from a flawed investment. Name your next role." She didn't reply immediately, her mind drifting to the terminal, to the weight of the envelope, to the silence she'd wielded like a weapon. The creases in the paper remained, a reminder of the day she'd turned invisibility into power. The following month, Havenport's CEO addressed a closed-door meeting, his voice strained as he outlined new training protocols and a diversity audit. "We failed a critical test," he said, avoiding the name that hung over the room like a shadow. Across the country, in a regional airport, Lauren scanned tickets for a commuter flight, her smile tight, her eyes scanning the crowd for a face she'd never forget. She didn't know Maya was already elsewhere, shaping the next boardroom, her silence louder than any protest, her presence rewriting the rules of who belonged. In Seattle, Maya boarded another flight, this time to New York, her role expanded to oversee Meridian's global compliance. Her first-class ticket was scanned without question, her satchel untouched, her presence unquestioned. As the plane climbed, she opened her tablet, reviewing a new directive. The envelope was gone, its purpose served, but its weight lingered, a reminder that power didn't need to shout, it only needed to stand, unyielding, until the world caught up. Thanks for watching the Pursuit Chronicles. If the story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because the pursuit never ends.